They understood that they were sovereign beings. They were sovereign entities that didn't want any king or any government ruling them. Not all of them, but enough of them. And, you know, we need to reject this revisionist history that is wrong regarding the intent of the American revolutionaries. You know, they fought for real freedom.
Now, there's a line that the statist loves in the Second Amendment, and the line is a well-regulated militia. Right. The statist claims, the gun control advocates, the slavery advocates, the people who want the state to have a monopoly on guns, they claim that this is constitutional justification from the founders for the state to regulate the militia. What does it mean to have a well-regulated militia?
Yeah, the reason they think that is because they are completely ignorant and uneducated as to what the actual authors of the Second Amendment and the Founding Fathers meant as well-regulated and militia. They don't understand the meaning of those two terms. So the first term, well-regulated, did not mean government regulation. And I continue to hear this. I continue to hear in the year 2018, the well-regulated militia spoken about in the Second Amendment meant that the government would regulate them. And you're an asshat if that's what you actually believe the founders meant by that. Okay? And yeah, that's an ad hominem attack. Sometimes ad hominem attacks are true because of what the person believes and what their belief makes them, and it makes them an asshat. Okay? You look up any usage of the word well-regulated or even the phrase regulated according to the Founding Fathers in the parlance of their times and any of the people living in that time period, it meant that it was functioning properly. And that's all it meant. It was kept well so that it functioned properly. Well-regulated meant if you're going to have a arsenal of 50 shotguns or 50 muskets or 50 semi-automatic combat rifles, you are going to periodically check them and maintain them. You're going to make sure all of the components are good and function properly and oiled properly. You're going to make sure that they shoot straight and true. Okay? You're going to make sure that the people who may be using them in the future, in a future time, are trained in their operation and are trained in battle tactics with that piece of equipment. That's what well-regulated means today when it comes to firearms, and that's what well-regulated meant in the founders' time period. Okay? It did not mean that the government is going to get their hands in and involved in every aspect of what's going on with this. It meant that the people are going to keep the firearms that they are going to use well-maintained and that they are going to know how to use them properly when it comes to a time for combat. And that's all it ever meant. And if you think that that's not what it meant, you're wrong. And anybody who says that that's not what it meant, you're wrong. You are incorrect, and you need to study history more, and you need to research the terms that they used back then, and you need to understand the context that they used them in. Okay? The second term was militia. And over again, the two actual authors. See, you don't need to go anywhere beyond the source, right? Look at the source first. Who wrote the Second Amendment? The Second Amendment was written by George Mason and James Madison. When they were asked after they wrote it, who did you mean in this phrase, in this clause, a well-regulated militia? Who did you mean by the militia? Go and look in their writings and go and look in interviews that they conducted with the press of their time. They never wavered from what they meant by the word militia once in any of their writings. Not one time did they differ in what the militia or who the militia was. They constantly said the same thing. Both men who were the authors of the amendment said the militia is the whole body of the people of America. The whole body of the people. Every able-bodied man, because women were excluded from combat at the time. Today, it would include women as well, of course. Every able-bodied man and woman capable of employing a firearm should their rights, freedom, or property come under attack by either a foreign influence or a domestic influence that was trying to take those rights away from them. Over and over and over and over again, they consistently said the same thing about what they wrote into that clause. Well-regulated meant functioning properly and maintained properly, and the people who would be using them knew how to use them. And militia meant the whole body of the people that could rise to the defense of the people when their rights or freedom were accosted. Get it straight. Understand that that's the correct actual fact of the matter about the first all-important phrase of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary. That's why my semi-automatic combat rifle is necessary, boys and girls. Necessary to what? Being necessary to the security of a free state. And that didn't mean Maryland, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware. Didn't mean any of that. The free state that was being referred to as a free way of life, a free state of being, a free state of existence, necessary to a free state, a free way of life, a free state of existence. That's what it meant. Didn't mean the boundary of a so-called state, of a region. Didn't mean that. You know, get the parlance of the times right. This is the problem. They're using the same words we use, but the words in the parlance of their times did not have the same connotation as they do today. This is why language and the understanding of language is so important. Historically, you have to understand historical use of language. You know, you say gay today, and you're probably referring to a homosexual. You say gay 100 years ago, and it meant happy, contented. You know, we have to understand the context of the times that we're using a word. And most people don't understand that because they make no study of either language or history, which is another part of why we're being enslaved and losing our rights. So study what the founders and the actual authors of the Second Amendment actually meant, their original intent. And they're all too happy to tell it to you in the open. Just look in their writings and look at the interviews that they conducted by the press. That's all you have to do. It's a matter of historical record. It's not a matter of opinion.